Reformed thinking. Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to unpack compelling ideas, and today, well, we're diving into something pretty radical. It's a concept that might just flip your understanding of how you relate to the divine. We're looking at a specific, maybe surprising thought from John Piper's writings, particularly where he suggests pastors should, believe it or not, tell them not to serve God.
Yeah, that's definitely a line that makes you stop and think, doesn't it? And our goal here in this deep dive is really to get our heads around what that paradoxical instruction actually means. We want to uncover the liberating truths it points to about God's nature, about his very being, and how we should interact with him, making sure always that all the credit, all the acknowledgement goes straight back to him. It really challenges a lot of ingrained assumptions.
It really does. So this conversation, it's an invitation, really, for you listening to maybe reevaluate how you approach God, how you think about your interaction with him. So yeah, settle in. This definitely goes against some conventional thinking, and it might just shift things for you. Okay, so let's try and open up this paradox. Tell them not to serve God. I mean, that sounds startling, especially when you put it next to other things we read, like in Psalm 100, worship the Lord with gladness. But then you have Jesus himself in Mark 10 saying the Son of Man came not to be served. Oh, how do these ideas even sit together? They feel like they're pulling opposite ways.
That's exactly the tension,
Yeah.
right? That's what we need to unpack. And you're right, worship, activity for God, those are definitely biblical ideas, no question. But there's a certain kind of mindset, a particular way of thinking about serving or waiting on God that actually diminishes his worth. It makes him seem smaller, needier. And that approach, surprisingly perhaps, can almost be seen as a kind of defiance.
Defiance. How so?
Because it misunderstands who he is at his core. The whole point Piper's making, as I see it, is to guard against any approach, any action on our part that lessens the glory of God as the all-sufficient provider. It's about protecting the truth of his absolute self-sufficiency. If we come to him thinking he needs our effort or our strength or our contributions, well, we're fundamentally misrepresenting him. It's like offering a candle to the sun.
Right.
It's not just wrong. It misses the entire point of the sun's nature.
Okay, that makes sense. It connects directly to that core teaching about God's absolute sufficiency, doesn't it? I'm thinking of Acts 17, verses 24 and 25. That passage seems key here. It says, God is not served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything.
Exactly. That passage is foundational for this whole discussion. And think of what that implies. It's huge. God is the ultimate giver. Period. He possesses everything. He lacks nothing, absolutely nothing. He's self-existent. He's the source, the origin of all life, all breath, all sustenance for everything that is. We literally cannot add anything to him, not to his being, his resources, his glory.
So any attempts to give him something he needs is just fundamentally flawed.
Precisely. Piper uses this great analogy. Imagine a little stream trying to pour its water back into the giant spring that feeds it, trying to, help the swang out and fill it up.
Right, that's absurd. The spring is the source.
Exactly. It's absurd. And picture, it helps us grasp how illogical it is to think God somehow needs our contributions, or that we could meet his needs as if he had any. God is always the benefactor, always the giver. He's never, ever the beneficiary of what we do. He gives freely, infinitely. He doesn't receive from us to fill some gap in himself. And understanding that, really understanding it, should lift this huge weight off our shoulders, this pressure to perform, to do more, be better, to somehow earn his favor or meet his supposed needs. He has none. He's the supply.
That image of the stream and the spring is really helpful. It clarifies things a lot. So if God is this ultimate self-sufficient giver who lacks nothing, what is it that really sets our God apart from all the other, so-called gods or deities people have imagined? How does he operate differently?
That's a great question because it points to something truly unique about him. Isaiah 64, verse 4, gives us a really powerful insight here. It says that God acts for those who wait for him. Think about that. He acts for those who wait. That's completely different from most other religious systems, right? Where the gods demand strenuous effort, rituals, sacrifices.
Yeah, where people have to do things to get the gods to act or to appease them.
Exactly. Those systems often put the burden on the worshiper to perform, to earn favor. But our God doesn't operate like, say, an employer who needs staff to get the job done. It's the opposite. He demonstrates his complete sufficiency, his majestic independence by doing the work himself. He glorifies himself by taking the initiative, by acting powerfully for his people, not because they've somehow earned it or enabled him, but because they've learned to wait on him, to depend on him.
Okay, so He's the one who acts. What does that mean for us then? What's our role? If he's doing the work, are we just supposed to sit back and watch? What does waiting look like?
No, it's not passive observation. But our posture, our fundamental stance, is one of radical dependence. Our proper role, as Piper describes it based on Scripture, is to wait for the Lord and trust his action. Now, waiting here isn't thumb-twiddling. It's an active trust and expectant looking to him. It means our own activity, the things we do, should flow from that waiting and trusting.
Ah, okay. So it's not that we do nothing, but the source and motivation of our action's different.
Precisely. It's not stemming from a sense that we need to help God out or complete his work for him. We're not called to be his assistants in the sense of supplying him with power or resources he lacks. Instead, we're called to be recipients of his powerful initiating work. It's subtle, maybe, but it's a huge shift in perspective. We live from a place of receiving his grace and strength, not primarily from giving or earning.
Right. And that challenges a really common perception people might have about the gospel, doesn't it? Like, is the good news basically a recruitment drive? Is God putting up a help wanted sign?
That's such a common misunderstanding, and Piper addresses it head on. He says, quite bluntly, the good news is not a help wanted ad. It is a help available ad.
Help available. Okay.
Yeah. God isn't looking for assistance the way a boss hires staff because the company would fold without them. He's not scouting for talent, looking for people to contribute their own inherent strength to his cause. Instead, he's looking for those who will let him, who will permit him to act powerfully in them and through them, those who will actually rely on his strength. That's the key difference.
So it's less about what we bring to the table and more about our willingness to depend on him.
Exactly. Think about 2 Chronicles 16, verse 9. It says, God's eyes search the whole earth. Why? To give strong support to those whose heart is completely his. He's looking for hearts oriented toward him, ready to receive his strong support. Piper uses another vivid picture here. God isn't like a scout looking for star players to win his games, as if he needed our skills. Instead, God himself is portrayed as like an unstoppable fullback, ready to take the ball and score the winning touchdown. For anyone who simply trusts him to win.
Wow. Okay.
He puts all the emphasis on his initiative, his power, his decisive action. He's the one who achieves the victory. Our part is trusting him to do it for us and through us. It totally changes the dynamic from striving to trusting dependency.
That's a really powerful image, the unstoppable fullback. So if God is the one carrying the ball, who does he actually call into relationship with him? Who are the people he brings onto his team, if we can use that analogy?
Right.
Is it the strong, the capable, the already skilled?
Well, this is where the contrast gets even sharper, and maybe even a bit shocking. Think about how, say, Uncle Sam recruits for the Army. Who do they want?
The healthy, the strong, the able-bodied.
Right. Those who contribute their strength and skills. But Jesus Christ, he operates completely differently. Piper puts it starkly. Jesus won't enlist you unless you are sick.
Unless you're sick.
Yeah. It directly echoes what Jesus himself said in Mark chapter 2, verse 17. Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners. So the core idea here is that our relationship with God, Christianity itself, is described as being like convalescence, like recovering from an illness.
Convalescence. Okay.
And if you're a patient, think about it. Do you serve your doctor? Do you try to assist the physician?
No, of course not. You trust them, you take their advice, you receive their care.
Exactly. Your posture is one of trusting them for good advice, for the right prescription, for their expert help. You are the recipient of care, not the provider of assistance.
So applying that spiritually, things like the Sermon on the Mount, for instance, we often see it as this list of incredibly difficult commands we have to somehow achieve, a job description almost.
Right. But within this framework Piper's outlining, the Sermon on the Mount isn't an employer's job description. It's more like doctor's medical advice. It's wisdom given for our good, for our spiritual health and recovery. It underscores that we're receiving guidance for our benefit. And the analogy goes even deeper. God isn't just the doctor writing the prescription. He's also like the compassionate nurse who helps us in our weakness, who lifts our head when we can't, who puts the spiritual spoon in our mouths.
Okay.
And even more than that, he is the medicine. He's the restorative remedy itself. It shows his incredibly comprehensive care, his initiative in our healing, and just how utterly dependent we are on him. Every step of the way, from diagnosis to recovery, it's his grace, his action, not our contribution.
Wow. Okay, so if God doesn't need our strength, our effort, our contributions in that sense, is there anything you can actually give him? Anything we can offer that doesn't somehow diminish his worth by implying he lacks something? What's an acceptable offering, if you like, that truly acknowledges who he is?
That's a really important question because it gets to the heart of what genuine interaction with God looks like from our side.
Hmm.
And you're right, God definitely doesn't need our sacrifices because he's hungry or lacking. Psalm 50 makes that incredibly clear. Verses 9 to 12, he basically says, if I were hungry, I wouldn't tell you. The world is mine and everything in it.
Right. She owns it all already.
Exactly. So he doesn't need our stuff. But there is something he asks us to give him, our anxieties.
Our anxiety.
Yeah, 1 Peter 5, verse 7. Cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you.
Mhm.
Think about what that act signifies. When we cast our anxieties, our worries, our burdens onto him, we are demonstrating our complete reliance on him. We're admitting we can't handle it. And in doing that, we actually validate his complete sufficiency. We acknowledge our weakness and his immense capability. It aligns perfectly with him being recognized as the ultimate provider, the one who can handle it all. So giving him our anxieties isn't giving him something he needs to possess, like gold or cattle. It's giving him the burden we cannot carry, thereby magnifying his strength and care. It's an act of trust he welcomes.
That's actually really freeing. Giving him our weaknesses, our worries, is the offering that honors his strength. Okay, so let's connect this to justification. How do we become right with God? If it's not through our own effort, our own work, how does justification by faith fit into this picture? This is central to Reformed understanding.
Absolutely central. And Romans chapter 4, verses 4 and 5 speaks directly to this. Paul writes, now to the one who works, his wages are not counted as a gift, but as his due. Makes sense, right? If you work, you earn your pay.
Right, it's owed to you.
But, Paul continues, to the one who does not work, but trusts him who justifies the ungodly, his faith is counted as righteousness. So righteousness, our right standing before God, is explicitly presented as a gift, not wages earned. If we could achieve it by our work, our striving, our religious performance, then it wouldn't be grace, it would be a debt God owed us.
Which is impossible.
Exactly. Therefore, in this whole transaction of justification, God is the workman. He's the one doing the crucial work. He gets all the credit for being the generous benefactor of grace. He initiates it. He accomplishes it through Christ. He's not the beneficiary of our activity. We don't work for justification. We trust him who justifies. It means our rightness with God is totally his doing, his gift, not our achievement. That takes an impossible burden off us.
Okay, that clarifies justification. It's 100% God's work received by faith. But then, what about after that? What about sanctification, our ongoing growth in holiness, in goodness? Is that where our effort finally kicks in? Do we take over the reins then? That seems to be a common way of thinking.
It really is a common thought process, isn't it?
Mm.
Okay, justification is by grace. Now I have to work hard to grow. But again, the consistent message is that sanctification is also fundamentally God's work in us. Look at 1 Corinthians 1, verse 30. It says, Jesus Christ became for us our righteousness and sanctification and redemption. He is both.
Ah, okay. Both righteousness and sanctification.
Yes. And remember that sharp warning Paul gives in Galatians 3, verses 2 and 3. He asks them, having begun by the Spirit, are you now being perfected by the flesh?
Right. That's a powerful challenge.
It is. And the flesh, there isn't just about obvious sins. It refers to human self-reliance, our own ability, religious effort done in our own strength, apart from dependence on the Spirit. Paul is highlighting the complete folly of trying to achieve spiritual growth through our own striving after we've been saved by grace. The principle has to be consistent. The same God who began the good work in you at justification is the one who will carry it on to completion in sanctification.
So relying on our own efforts for growth is actually counterproductive.
It's worse than counterproductive. Paul suggests it leads towards spiritual death. Romans 8.33 warns, if you live according to the flesh, you will die. He's talking about that self-reliant religious effort apart from the Spirit's enabling power. So Piper's point holds true here as well. Our very spiritual lives, our growth, depend on not trying to work for God in that sense of earning or contributing our own strength. Both for getting right with him initially and for growing closer to him continually, God remains the primary worker. This frees us from that exhausting cycle of trying harder and feeling like we're failing, and draws us into dependence on his ongoing grace.
Wow. Okay. This perspective really does challenge so many common assumptions about the Christian life. So if these conventional ideas of serving God in the sense of assisting him actually diminish him, then what does true activity toward God look like? How do we genuinely relate to him in a way that honors his greatness?
Well, if we start from the place that God doesn't need our assistance, then our whole understanding of activity towards him gets redefined. There's a beautiful picture in Psalm 123, verse 2. It says, "Behold, as the eyes of servants look to the hand of their master, so our eyes look to the Lord our God, till he has mercy upon us."
Mm. Looking to the master's hand. For what?
For provision, for direction, for mercy. The focus is on receiving from the master. So this suggests that genuine service, genuine relating to God, is fundamentally about receiving mercy, not offering assistance. It's a posture of humble dependence, constantly looking to his hand for what he will give. Piper argues that any attempt to break away from this dependence, to sort of get off the divine dole, as he puts it, to try and establish some kind of equal partnership with God, where we contribute our part and he contributes his, that's seen as defiance. It's a revolt against the creator-creature distinction.
Because he's the giver, not a business partner.
Exactly. God gives mercy. He doesn't barter. He doesn't trade favors. Our good actions, our obedience, should flow from having received his mercy, not be an attempt to earn it or pay him back.
This is such a paradigm shift. It feels, well, almost upside down compared to how many people approach faith. How can we make this more concrete? How does this reorientation play out in everyday life and motivation?
Okay, let's try that analogy Jesus uses. It's actually quite helpful here. Matthew 6.24, you cannot serve God and money.
Right, familiar verse.
That juxtaposition, God and money, holds a key clue, according to Piper. Think about how someone serves money. What does that actually mean?
Well, you don't help money. You don't try to meet money's needs.
Right. Serving money means believing its promise, the promise that it will bring you happiness, security, joy, whatever. And then you act. You arrange your life so that money's perceived benefits become accessible to you for your good.
Okay, yeah. You work for it, save it, invest it, all to get what you think money offers you.
Exactly. You don't put your effort at money's disposal for its good. You arrange things so money's power is at your disposal for your good. Now, apply that same logic to God. Serving God in this redefined sense means accepting his promise of supreme, lasting joy found in him, and then living by that faith, arranging our lives, making choices, pursuing disciplines, so that his strengths, his resources, his infinite supply will always be accessible to us for our ultimate good.
So it's the complete opposite of trying to put our meager strength at his disposal for his benefit.
Precisely. It's arranging our lives to tap into his infinite strength for our benefit, our eternal benefit, our deepest joy.
Yeah.
This is the radical reorientation. Our actions, our disciplines, our obedience, they aren't done to benefit God or fill his needs. They are done to position ourselves to continually receive his overflowing grace, his guidance, his strength, his joy. Our whole spiritual life becomes about him giving and us learning to receive and respond in trust. It changes the motivation for everything.
Okay, that analogy is incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
Serving God, like we wrongly serve money, arranging things to access the benefit. But then the immediate question that pops up is about obedience. If our posture is primarily about receiving benefits from God, does obedience still matter? Does this view somehow sideline God's commands?
Not at all. That's a crucial point. Obedience remains absolutely central, but it's understood differently. It's the obedience of a recipient of benefits, not the obedience of an employee earning wages.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about a patient obeying their doctor's instructions. Why do they do it?
To get well, for their own health.
Exactly. For their own benefit. Or think of the convalescent sinner, as Paper puts it, trusting and following the therapist's sometimes difficult advice. Why? To recover. Or even more starkly, imagine a paralyzed patient allowing the nurse to administer the restorative medicine. That allowing, that cooperation, is a form of obedience for their own healing. Our obedience to God's commands is like that. It's the way we maintain our connection to the source of life and health. It's how we stay in a position to receive what the divine physician provides for our ultimate good.
So following the prescription not to help the doctor, but to heal ourselves.
Precisely. We obey for our benefit because his ways lead to life. And crucially, because God is always the giver in this dynamic. He's the one who gets the recognition. He's the benefactor. The giver gets the glory. Our obedience doesn't earn his favor. It aligns us with the flow of his grace for our good and his glory.
That clarifies the role of obedience beautifully. It fits within this framework of receiving. So putting it all together with this reoriented view, what's the highest aim? What's the ultimate goal of all our activity toward God? Where does all of this lead?
The ultimate aim, the crowning purpose, is always God's glory. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 11 puts it so clearly, whoever serves or relates to others, ministers must do it as one who serves by the strength that God supplies.
By the strength God supplies.
Yes, and why? in order that in everything God may be glorified. You see, even when we are most active, most engaged, living out our faith, pursuing good works, we are still fundamentally recipients of His grace, His enablement. We are operating on His supplied strength. And God, Piper insists, will never ever share the glory that belongs solely to the benefactor, the ultimate giver.
So he remains the source and therefore receives the credit.
Always. He is the source of all good, so He rightly receives all the recognition.
So practically then, day to day, what does this mean for us if we embrace this understanding?
It means absolutely we should work diligently, we should be obedient to His commands, we should share the good news, we should pursue holiness. But as we do all these things, we have to constantly remember deep down, it is not I, but the grace of God that is with me, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15:10. And we remember Philippians 2:13, that it is God who works in you, both to will and to work for His good pleasure.
He works in us the willing and the doing.
Yes. And we should be careful, as Romans 15:18 suggests, to only speak of what Christ has accomplished through me. That's the crucial final emphasis. In all our activity, all are related to God. He must be the giver. He must be the initiator, the enabler. And consequently, He must receive all the recognition, all the glory. This frees us from the burden of self-reliance and allows us to joyfully participate in His work, knowing it's all flowing from Him. It truly changes everything.
It really does. This has been, well, quite a deep dive and genuinely liberating, I think, just recapping that core idea. Our true posture before God isn't about trying to help Him out, but about a radical dependence on His complete sufficiency. It's about constantly being in a position to receive His grace, His strength, His mercy. And doing that ensures that all the recognition, all the glory for any good that happens goes rightly to Him alone. It reframes everything.
It absolutely does. And perhaps we should leave you, the listener, with that provocative thought we started with directly from Piper. Until the people understand this, brothers, tell them not to serve God.
That's such a striking way to put it. Really makes you pause.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it really challenges you, listening right now, to think about what this means for you. What does this reoriented understanding mean for your daily walk? How you approach your faith, your activities, your prayers, how you view your interaction with God. What might need to shift in your perspective, maybe even in your actions, based on this? For instance, how might viewing God as the constant giver and yourself as the constant receiver change how you face a difficulty or approach your spiritual disciplines?
Yeah, lots to chew on there. I really invite you to keep contemplating this God's nature as the ultimate all-sufficient giver and how recognizing that truth might just reshape your entire spiritual life. It's potentially life-changing stuff.